Before we start building this system together then, this next lesson, lesson 2, we just cover some of the prerequisites and the setup instructions you need to follow so that you can start building your agentic testing system. So the first thing you need is a number of tools. You'll need Node installed, Claude Code, Git, Visual Studio Code, and optionally a GitHub account. So the Node URL for download you can get from Node.js.org, and you can download and install that. Claude Code you can download from Anthropic. All the links are below for these download pages. Git, you'll want to have Git installed on your system, and the editor that I use is Visual Studio Code. It's as good as any. And finally, you may optionally want to get yourself a GitHub account so that you can store your repository in GitHub and use that in conjunction with Claude Code. So once you've installed those tools, what you should be able to do is either from a command prompt or a git bash terminal, whatever you choose. So if I pick a command prompt, you should be able to run the version commands and just check which versions of those tools you've actually got. So you can do node ---- version, and you should have a version around version 20 or 22, npm ---- version, node package manager. And then we've got Claude installed. Check which version of that we've got. I've got version 1.089, and then we want git ---- version, and I can just basically confirm that I've got all of the tools I need in the prerequisite setup. Your versions won't be identical to mine, but as long as they're close or roundabout to that, you should be okay to follow through on the steps in this course. Right, so the next thing you'll need then is the code that goes with this course. And in the links below, you'll find a link to the repository here, which is github.com/AI-testmanagement/AT-course. And from here, you can copy the code link and you can use in your terminal, and I've created a temp directory here, you can just use the git clone command and paste that URL in to clone the repository. And that will bring all of the code down onto your system in a directory called AT course. You can change directory to AT course, and you'll find in that directory you will find all of the code for this particular lesson and the modules that will come over the next few weeks and months. The structure of this repository, what I've done is I've created this main branch which will have the latest, most up-to-date, completed version of the code. If you want to follow along with the steps, what I recommend doing is switching to a branch like start point module 1 lesson 1. So this is the clean starting point from which you can follow along with the commands. So you'll want to do a git switch, and you'll need to go to that start point -module 1-lsn lesson 1, and that will give you the clean code where you can then start and execute the commands and follow along as I step through each of those 4 main process steps from idea right through to PRP execution. So one last thing, you will notice that throughout this course I tend to use git bash as my shell for executing my commands, but equally you can use command prompt or you can use PowerShell. Pretty much as long as you have all of these tools installed, they should work in any shell. So once you've got all the tools installed, once you've cloned the repository, and once you have your Claude Code account configured and set up so that you can run the Claude Code shell, you're ready to start. And what we'll do in the next lesson is walk you through step by step each of the individual commands so that you can create your first Playwright TypeScript project using Claude Code as your agentic coding tool. One other thing to point out quickly, I'm not going to go into detail about how to use Claude Code. I'll provide a link to a bonus module and video which talks you through some of the basics and the fundamentals, but there's so much good information on the web, YouTube, and the Claude Code Anthropic website that covers a lot of how to use Claude Code. So I will show you Claude Code commands where and when you need to use them, but for actually becoming really competent with Claude Code, I really recommend looking at YouTube and going into detail on the Anthropic website, which details and provides comprehensive instructions on how to use Claude Code.